Deaf people of Reddit, how scary is farting in public? Funny thing, I have severe hearing loss. I finally got hearing aids and realized that many of those silent but deadlies were just deadly. My family never told me. They thought I knew and was just being a dad. LOL. If I found out that my gassy father had been farting in front of his family all the time simply because he did not know we could hear him and not because he was being goofy, I would laugh myself insane. I am late to the show, but I feel I absolutely must share. When I met my now wife, I had a real understanding of the ramifications of her hearing loss. I knew she was partially deaf, and that we needed subtitles for television. Through our relationship I learned oh so much more. One thing in particular, I learned I could blame any flatulence on the dog easily. Now, originally, I thought this was strictly smell related, but as I came to understand, I could fully rip one in front of her so long as I did not lift a butt cheek she would not suspect me for a second. Fast forward, I am regularly in the home letting loose loud farts. Not smelly, but not sneaky at all. Turns out, I oftentimes forget that in public, not everyone is deaf. Silent may not be deadly, but loud farts can be heard by normal people and judged accordingly. Same situation, but I'm the one with hearing loss. We playfully blame 100% of farts on the dogs even when they're not in the room. But it is pretty easy to tell a dog fart from a human fart. Your wife knows. Either his dog has remarkably mild farts, or he is producing rotten dog farts. Little bit of column A, little bit of column B. My group of deaf friends let it rip whenever they want, but I suspect it is because they do not give a duck. I hold it in and wait for a good time with no one around. I have to say I did rip a beast of a fart when I thought no one was around, not knowing that someone was rounding the corner. He looked like a bomb victim approaching the mushroom cloud, and I did not wait around to see his reaction to the smell. I once farted in an empty elevator, just as the door was about to open and I was going to get off. Instead, it was an extended fart, and someone was there, and they watched me finish the fart. Needless to say, I got off right then. The look of betrayal in their eye kept me away from elevators for a good week or so. I have a deaf family, so growing up meant going to the deaf club every weekend, big event, etc. Being a child at but tied in a room full of deaf adults who casually repass because no one can hear who dealt it was traumatic. What is the deaf club? The first rule of deaf club is that nobody hears about deaf club. My dad is deaf, and every summer we go group camping with many other deaf people. One particular year I was hanging out with my dad's girlfriend at the time and some of her deaf friends. In the middle of the conversation she let a huge one rip. I was the only hearing one in the group and we were outdoors, so really I was the only one who knew. After the conversation was over she asked me if I had heard her fart, and we had a pretty good laugh about it. If a deaf person farts in the woods, does it make a sound? Dinger S fart. Not deaf, but I do have congenital anosmia, which means I have had no sense of smell since birth. It is difficult to appreciate the issue of farting when I can't fathom smell. I tend to just let them go and hope no one notices. Technically, it can never be me who dealt it since I can't have smelt it. We are always taught that smell and taste are so intertwined. How is your sense of taste? Fully realizing you do not have experience with normal to compare it to. Real answer: I go to the bathroom if I feel like I am going to. Do not want any mishaps. A fart is, after all, a poop that is crying to come out. Blow over. It does not seem to bother my deaf 6-year-old. I am not sure if that is because he is deaf or 6. Verdict is still out on that one. I mean, my 6-year-old understands. He runs around the house telling the world I farted. When he does it he blames his sisters. Mine is proud of his. Nobody else gets that credit. A friend of mine works with deaf people and says they fart all the time whenever, wherever, because they have no idea it makes a sound. What I don't get is they don't feel that terrible internal rumble and release all that pressure and let her rip and stink out of place, but think it's okay because they can't hear it. As a teacher, I am accustomed to junior high kids farting. But today was something special. An 8th grader who has a hearing aid farted in class, and it was really loud. and it smelled like decaying flesh. He happened to be sitting near the shelf where I run my essential oil diffuser, and the scent of his fart mixed with the orange scent I had going, and created its own new concoction. It lingered for quite a while too. I am still shuddering thinking about the stench I had to pretend to ignore. My mum was a primary elementary school teacher. She has a story of this one time when she had had a curry for lunch and felt an almighty gurgling in her stomach. Cut to story time where she sits on a chair and all of the kids sit on the carpet and gather at her feet while she reads to them. There is always that one super enthusiastic kid that has to be first in line, first to raise their hand, etc. This kid would always eagerly sit right at the base of her feet. This is when she says she could not take it anymore. She seeped out a hot fart that smelt like a homeless threw up into a used nappy and then left it out in the sun all day. All the kids are going, "Oh, what is that?" That one kid is practically gagging and goes, "It is making my eyes water." My mum says she was trying to hold back a chuckle and just calmly said, "I think whoever did it needs to go outside." My grandma's hearing was going downhill, and it was hit or miss if her hearing aids were working right. So my sister and I have to take her to mass one year while my mom stayed home to watch my dad dying at the time. This is like most cathedrals, high ceilings, stone floors and walls and wooden pews. The deacon was in the middle of his sermon and my grandma let loose. Now, grandma was overweight, so that created a bit of a seal that she blasted through, reverberating off the wooden pew, stone floors and walls, all the way up to heaven itself probably. The sermon stopped momentarily, the deaconess mouth hanging open as everyone turned to look. But the deacon recovered quickly and things carried on. Later, in the car, my sister said, "Grandma, what the heck was that?" "What? You farted?" "Oh, I thought no one would hear." Not nearly as scary as when I found out getting an erection makes a loud noise. Boring. I envision it more like a loud THWAP. Kind of like the sound made when sharply opening an umbrella. Mine sounds like one of those little springs behind doors that prevent the door from hitting the wall. If you fart in a crowd but do not hear it, did you even fart at all? The mass of people who passed out would tell you yes. But are they conscious? Or are they just blind sheepies all doing the same things the same way every single day without perceiving the world around them? There is a deaf guy that I work with. He takes the loudest shits. Like you can tell he is pushing as hard as he can. I want to tell him, but that shit's too hilarious. My mostly deaf co-worker down the hall randomly belches at full force usually once a week. Until I figured it out, I thought there was some air trapped in the building pipes. Turns out it was just in his. It scares the poop out of me. If you're blowing out your britches out in the open, you've got a whole other problem, friendo. So apparently there are these interlocking kind of fibers in your nose that allow you to smell. If they get separated or severed or whatever, that is it. No more smellings. Denizo. They never grow back. I used to work with this complete asshat that got hit by lightning and apparently it zapped his nose fibers and he could no longer smell. I always wondered what it must be like for this poor bastard to pass a quiet bit of gas and then just never know if he got away with it. I have a couple of friends who can smell. The girl is always asking if she smells and she is super paranoid about using deodorant and not farting, not doing anything that may smell. The guy doesn't give a duck. On my uni course we have a guy who is deaf, and in our first year he lived in the same halls as me, so we would regularly see each other and catch the bus to class. So one day I step into the lift on my floor and he is in there, so I wave and give him a thumbs up. I didn't know sign language, so this was how I would basically say hi, how are you, and we rode the elevator down. I then realized I needed to fart badly and thought, well, he is deaf, he won't hear, so I let rip and my god it was loud. I was so proud of myself till I realized the smell was like someone was decaying in the elevator with us, and he just started laughing maniacally and typed a quick message on his phone, which said, "Haha, don't worry, everyone does this, you aren't the first to fart and think I won't notice." Farts make noise? No. But direction does. I honestly did not know it made a sound until I was about 9, when my 7-year-old brother told me. I asked him why he did not tell me sooner and he said he thought I was doing it on purpose. I asked my mom and she said she did not want to embarrass me. WTF man, I even did it at school. This would make more sense for blind people. Deaf people may not be able to hear it, but they can look around and make a judgment call. Blind people basically have to guess how many people are around by sounds. A library, for instance, would be a tough call to make. Buses might only be the driver, or the whole back of the bus could be full. Trolley or subway. Some routes it is a crapshoot, pack car or not, and everybody trying to make as little noise as possible cause nobody wants to be noticed. Never thought about that. Maybe they could send out a tiny preemptive fart, using it as a means of echolocation to judge if it's safe to release the beast. Echolocation farts. Now that is a novelty. It's gonna be a hit when it hits a VR platform. At my work we have thermal cameras. If you rip a big enough fart, it looks like a flamethrower from the thermal cam. I am in charge of security at a large retailer. I watch camera footage a lot. I would absolutely love this. If I was in charge of security with thermal cams, I'd be laughing my bloody ass off catching people rip ass. How scary is farting in public when you have your headphones on? But I have a rough idea of the butthole vibration to noise ratio because I have heard my own farts before. A deaf person has no frame of reference. Butthole vibration to noise ratio. I am dying. I am something of a butthole scientist. I've been married to a deaf wife for 33 years. I've been to many deaf functions, often as one of the only hearing people there. They are the quietest functions you'll ever attend. A lot of fly swatting signing along with a lot of grunting. Some deaf have very good voices. My wife is one. Many do not. Hence the grunting. These folks saying they rip ass all the time may have experienced that. I have not. My wife does fart though, and they are ducking killers. Of course I call her on it signing, "Did you just poop?" She gets all self-conscious and tells me I do too. That was never in question. I just like calling her on it because it kills her. Oh well. 33 years of marriage and this is what you have. I have hearing aids so I can hear farts. That said, I love letting out stealthy public farts. My favorite fart was when I was in high school biology class. We were doing a lab. So I walked to the end of the room to get something and let out the nastiest fart I have ever made in my life. I walked back to my spot and a couple minutes later the teacher yelled out that whoever farted needs to see a doctor. Heh. Just reminded me of my proudest fart. Farts. One morning Mom was driving me to school. My stomach felt like utter poop. I farted. It was like the air turned to soup. The temp went up 5 degrees. And it smelled like a dead cat. But that was not the end. My mom rolled down every window. It just would not go away. And every time we hit a stop sign or light, the pressure of the seat belt pushed out another cabin full of hot-ass soup. 30 minutes of non-stop farting. Barely being able to breathe due to cramping. Nasty cheesy fart fog. And laughing hard as I ever had. We eventually make it to school and just like that, the farts stop. My poor mom. You gotta assert dominance. I may have lost a sense, but the ones that remain have been enhanced. I may have lost one sense, but now I share some new sense. Asking the real questions. This sub has so much BS. But this question is fascinating. I used to work in a cubicle with headphones on. Quite often I did fart and then a second later think, oh crap, did that make noise? My little brother is deaf, and he'll casually let ones rip from time to time with no acknowledgement or care. Although, with my experience with deaf people, farting really isn't the problem. I'd say if you have a phobia or a problem with listening to people eating or smacking their lips loudly, then don't eat around deaf people. Especially if it is spaghetti. I repeat, spaghetti. I have to leave the room when my brother eats any type of noodle. Because it is the grossest thing I've ever heard. I can't even begin to describe it without making myself nauseous. This is the reason why farts stink. So deaf people can enjoy them too. Pro tip. If you need to fart in public, do it beside the mother and her child. She'll think the kid had an accident. I run a daycare. And one of our teachers likes to fart in the baby room and then watches the other teachers frantically check every diaper in the room twice because they cannot figure out which kid poop. She will go in to grab something from a cupboard, fart silently, and then walk out and watch them through the window, while laughing hysterically. That is hilarious, lol.